Hey, Reg here, and welcome back to the channel. I am here with another holiday rant, it seems. I've had a lot of time to, start catching up on some of the folks who are subscribers to the channel, and I've been trying to kind of return the favor by going and looking at some of the stuff that people that I don't know who are subscribers to my channel, things that they've been posting on their channel, and not just the videos that they've posted, but things that they've liked, just to kind of get a better sense of who's out there, and this is all part of my campaign to just be more critical of my own activism, and also just to have a greater understanding of what the vegan YouTube community looks like. So some of you may have noticed that on New Year's Day, I posted a video about a mouse that had been caught in a trap in my apartment. Now, obviously, I set the trap, but if I didn't set the trap, then my husband set the trap, but one of us set the trap, and both of us have done that in the past. Regardless of that, the mouse got caught in the trap. I immediately realized when I realized that the mouse hadn't been killed in the trap and that only its tail had been caught, I realized there was an opportunity for me to save the mouse. Spare the mouse. I shouldn't say save the mouse because I set the trap, right? But spare the mouse and to just get it out, let it go outside. Again, I don't want to say that the action of releasing it, taking it outside and releasing it was anything heroic, because that may have also been condemning the mouse to its death. All that said, I posted it to my channel, and a few people looked at it, and I guess I was kind of maybe relieved that not a lot of people were on YouTube on New Year's Day. But I got a few comments, and the best of those was from Crazy Old Vegan, who suggested Have a Heart traps, and I purchased some Have a Heart traps, and from now on I will at least capture them alive and then let them go outside. Again, not saying that that's going to be sparing their lives, but at least it won't be me killing them, for whatever that means. I got an interesting question though. Someone asked how the trap got there. Now, again, the video wasn't posted. I didn't want people watching that video to see it as my experience. I wanted people watching the video to see it as the mouse's experience. And the hope in that case was for people to just think, this is a life. And by showing the mouse close up, people might, see it's cute, it's this, beautiful living thing, and start to empathize with the mouse. And maybe other people might make a choice to not use the cruel method of catching mice in traps. Maybe that's why I posted, or maybe I just wanted to get a lot of views. I don't know. But regardless, my assumption is that people would know that that I'd set the mouse trap and then had a slight change of heart. But this person had posted, how did the trap get there? And, I just answered and I said, I put it there. And then, the person asked why. And I realized I'm being baited into a conversation about, why mice get caught in traps. And yes, it's clear that from posting the video, I'm turning a critical eye on that activity. But this person somehow had just gone back in history and wanted to have a debate with the self that had set the trap and not the self that had made the video. And I think that's a problem. That's one of the problems I see in this vegan movement with some of the louder voices, is that there are people who kind of see themselves in their kind of perfect light of veganism, wherever it is that they are, regardless of whatever blind spots they may have, and really expend a lot of energy in judgment on other people, be they vegans or people who are aspiring to a life of veganism, or certainly people who eat meat as well. And this lack of empathy, I think, is very problematic, because I think that lack of empathy actually comes historically from the same place that other systems, other oppressive systems have grown. And I'll get back to that a little bit later. So, not to write the person off, I actually saw that they had some videos posted on their channel, and I went to their channel and started watching videos, and I guess I wasn't surprised to discover that the videos were, oh, meat eaters are stupid, they're dumb hicks, also, making fun of poor people and making fun of uneducated people, assuming that that's what you have to be to eat meat, although there are plenty of intelligent, middle-class Christian, wealthy even people who eat meat, and I think we just know that, right? And then there was another video that showed, some hunters who were like, really being disrespectful with the body of a goose that they had shot, and the person is calling them pieces of shit, and I just watched that and I thought to myself, that's me. That's me for most of my life. I've been pursuing this lifestyle of veganism for about 5 years, but I still feel like I have such a long way to go, and I have so many blind spots, and I do feel crappy about them. So to watch a video where, people were being called a piece of shit, it didn't inspire me to think it didn't inspire the best from me. It actually made me feel like, well, if that's the judgment I'm going to have, as a person of 50, I've lived, I've basically formed most of the habits that I'm going to form. And it's really a lot of heavy lifting for me to make these cultural shifts, and I'm making them all the time, and it requires a lot of work. So to have someone, a young person, a young privileged person kind of spouting out this like hateful language towards people who haven't reached that level of critical consciousness just made me feel pretty darn bad, and made me kind of want to give up. And I don't think that that's the choice I'm going to make, but that's how I felt watching that. The loudest voices in our vegan movement are these voices that are just stoking these fires of rage and hate, and maybe it's getting people who are already vegans kind of psyched up for what, I don't know. But I don't know if it actually works on people who are currently eating animal flesh to get them to stop doing that. And it seems to me that that's the goal. I don't know if showing pictures of, poor hicks abusing animals is going to affect someone who doesn't see themselves in that light. If they see themselves as an intelligent, informed, rational person and they're eating meat, then they can always say, well, that's not me, and then go on about their business. Finally, I want to say that this, I want to go back to that statement that I'd made about the methodology that is being used in the vegan movement. It's this very expedient, it's very violent, and that comes from a cultural history of using violent methods to expedite progress. And it was what led to the choice to just murder all of the indigenous people when Americans came to this country. And it was part of, why we had the enclosure at the sort of dawn of capitalism, when people were thrown off of the lands and moved into cities where they had to then depend on things like in the industrial food system to get food. They left the land where they could grow their own food and were then put in a situation where they had to accept whatever food they were given. And for centuries that has been animal products. And so and we see it again and again and again. We see it with putting people in slavery to help, build up economic systems, and that happened all over the world. These expedient methods to get to where we want to go generally leave us in a place where something else, there's an imbalance in another place. And that imbalance has left us where we are now, with the earth in jeopardy and, 56 billion animals being killed every year to supply the food for the labor force to be able to keep this whole thing going. And so when we talk about methodology, it's not just a matter of, well, does this work, does this not? We have to think about, like, what is the historical precedent? James and Grace Lee Boggs wrote a book in the 70s called Revolution and Evolution in the 20th Century, and they talk about the history of revolution throughout the past 200 or 300 years. And they talk about how in each of those revolutions, expedient methods were used to overthrow whatever government was in place, and very little was done to create a cultural shift. So once the new order was in place, they had no model for how to move the society forward. And so ended up falling back on a lot of the same abusive systems and corruption that had been existing in the previous, with the previous regimes. So if our approach to creating a vegan society is violence, what do we do? Do we just, put down our weapons, or do we just, what do we do next? What's the end game? So all that said, again, this is a rant. I don't have any answers, but I have a lot of concerns and a lot of questions, and I hope that this serves as some food for thought for some others out there. Thanks a lot for checking out the channel again. Of course, if you like this video, like it, share it. And if you aren't a subscriber, please do subscribe. I have a lot of videos that aren't rants, and you might enjoy those. That said, have an amazing day. Do love yourself. Peace.